Hello, I'm Elsa, and I'm with the Stockton San Joaquin Public Library System. And today I'm going to be showing you a couple different ways on how to reduce plastic and food waste in your home. To make beeswax wraps, you'll need beeswax in block or pellet form, cotton or linen fabric, a towel, and parchment paper. Optional, for some fun color, you'll need food waste, pause the following images for some ideas, salt or vinegar, and a needle and thread. Here is what I use to dye my fabric. I use spinach, black tea, some hibiscus, and raw pomegranate. Here you can see all the liquids. We have the pomegranate at the bottom left. We have the hibiscus on the bottom right. Top left is going to be the spinach, and black tea is going to be the top right. You can already see how the fabric is being dyed. So here I am, I've taken my towel, parchment paper, and I'll be taking the tea dyed fabric, and you'll want to add a generous amount of beeswax, making sure that the fabric is evenly coated. I'll add another piece of parchment paper and iron my fabric on the lowest setting. I'm not staying in one place too long. The fabric isn't too hot since it's on the lowest setting, but also be very, very careful. I'm turning it around to see if the wax has soaked through completely, and I'll be needing to add some more wax and continue to iron. And now I'm peeling it off. I'll set it off to dry, and it'll be ready to use once it's dry. Here I am, giving it a try. Food waste soup. To prep, every time you cook, instead of throwing away vegetable scraps, save them in a container and put it in the freezer. When your container's full, it's time to cook. The instructions are simple. Add your frozen veggies into water. Aim for a 1-to-1 ratio between the water and vegetables. Add a generous pinch of salt, some peppercorn, bay leaves, and any other herbs you have on hand. Once your stock boils, lower the heat and simmer for at least 40 minutes. This is my soup before it's reached a boil. You can already see that it's got a lovely color. Strain this and you're ready to cook. for this, we've gone miniature. For composting, you're gonna want a container of some sort, unless you're going to do pile composting if you live somewhere where that would be okay. If not, I think for most of us, at least a 5-gallon bucket would probably be appropriate. This is something that I would keep my food scraps in. It was a container for baking soda, and this is probably like the container that I keep my food scraps in before I take them out to the compost. It's pretty small for demonstration purposes. It'll work just fine. So some of the benefits of composting is that food that would go into landfills creates emissions. Food like this that, you know, we have some banana peel, we have the skin of the avocado, some mandarins that unfortunately did not get to be eaten before they went bad. All this would end up in the landfill, and we could make use of them still. Even though we can't eat them, we can still use them and save them from going into landfills. And composting is also great for your plants. It retains moisture pretty well. It enriches the soil. You won't have to water as much or use fertilizer, so that's also great if you keep plants. So what you're going to need is a container. Usually I use the larger kitty litter containers after they have been emptied. You can drill holes into those, create holes at the bottom and the lower portion of your bucket. And so if there's any excess moisture, it can drain out and evaporate. So your compost bin won't get stinky. Compost bins shouldn't have a disgusting or terrible odor to them. They're gonna smell a little bit, but if it's really, really disgusting, you might have a problem, and there's always ways to remedy that. Usually you don't have to just chuck the whole compost bin. And right now we are in winter. This isn't the best time to start a new composting bin. Everything kind of just slows down. Decomposition just kind of slows down. So it's best to do this in a little bit of a warmer weather where things can get going. So here we have our bin. You can see that we have our holes down there. And because we don't want these to get clogged up, I have some twigs. So we'll go ahead and just break these and place them in the bottom. There we go. Just so there's a little bit of, so I'm also going to add cardboard. You might notice that this cardboard doesn't have any waxy substance on it. It's not plastic covered, it's just plain old paper cardboard. And that's what we want. We don't want any plastic, waxes, oils, any dog or cat feces. We don't want any dairy products. Eggshells are okay as long as they've been rinsed out. Thick, no compostable plastic. Unfortunately, compostable plastic doesn't truly compost. So we're gonna rip up our cardboard and create a small layer. You can also add dry leaves. Dry leaves would count as our brown material, which is carbon rich. So there we have one layer of our brown substances. So from this, we're gonna add, since this is rather small, and these pieces I would probably cut up, or they would be a lot smaller, definitely with the mandarin. So here we have our green waste. Then I'm gonna add a layer on top of that of brown material, and here we have our paper layer, and when it comes to paper, you don't want it covered with any wax or plastic. You also won't want to use receipt paper for this because it is toxic. But any mail would be fine as long as you take off the little square plastic where your address shows. So here we go with our green layer. And then we're gonna top it off with another brown layer. Okay, there we are. So after you're all done starting off your composting bin, you can close it off. I've got some holes at the top, and I've heard of some people using the 5-gallon bucket and just rolling it to get things going. You're gonna want to aerate it, which means every so often, and this is a compostable fork that will not be going in here. Every so often, check in on it every week and aerate it, introduce some air in there, make sure that nothing's getting too stinky, that things are decomposing. And you can top off with a little bit of dirt. If it starts to feel a little bit too dry, there's too much cardboard or paper or dry leaves, and nothing's really going on, everything's just staying how it was put in here, you can add a little bit of water. And of course, if the opposite is true, if there is, if it's getting a little stinky, if it's a little bit too moist, you're gonna wanna add more cardboard, dry leaves, all of those dry, brown, carbon-rich materials you can add in here. And you know when your compost is ready to be used and ready to feed your little plant babies is when it is nice and uniform, it looks like dirt, it smells like dirt, and that is when you'll be able to get use out of your compost. Here is my old composting bin. It's a little unkept right now, but these are strawberries that are growing in old compost, and it's quite a large bucket and will get plenty of use during the spring and summer.
Thank you for joining me. I hope you use some of these sustainable tips at home. See you next time.